All right, let's kind of go through the Rantanen situation. We'll start from where we are right now. Last night, as I was turning in, I will not tell you what time that was. The latest was the Hurricanes and the Dallas Stars had reached the framework of a trade that would send Rantanen to Dallas for we don't know what, but it was contingent on Rantanen signing a contract extension to stay in Dallas. If you send Rantanen to someplace where he'll sign an extension, the return that you get will be more significant. And for those Hurricanes fans who also are aware of the league, Dallas has, I think, a lot that Carolina should be interested in and are interested in. And I don't know, I have no idea who the players are that were involved in the framework of this trade. But if you've paid attention to the Stars, whether it's Wyatt Johnston or Maverick Bourque is a younger player and he's playing down in the lineup, but a dynamite prospect. I know Logan Stankoven is a guy that showed up last year and got into the playoffs and is a good player, but he's small, also a center. But they've got Rope Hintz, who's a really good player. And you've got Thomas Harley on the back end and Mason Marshman, who is kind of a physical, fast, big forward who isn't necessarily a high-end offensive player, but can score. And Carolina actually, a few years ago, they actually announced that Carolina had signed him, and then he took the same contract in Dallas. No state income tax. We had understand the I guess the advantage in that case. Florida has that. The state of Texas has that. So there are definite pieces that I mentioned. Thomas Harley, the defenseman who actually played for Team Canada in the Four Nations faceoff. So there are a lot of pieces that the Stars have that any trade with Carolina could return. Could return one of them, two of them, who knows? So I like the fact that is a team that they have been engaged with. But Rantanen hasn't signed a contract there, and as of this morning, talks have broken down. Now, they did say that they were going to revisit, and who knows what the dollar figure is. Look, Rantanen didn't want to sign with Colorado for less than $12.5 million annually, and that's a place that drafted him. And, he was there for the first however many years of his career. And he didn't sign there. They were having trouble signing him. Now, they had a ceiling that they weren't going to go beyond, which is, I think, $12.6 million for Nathan MacKinnon. He wasn't going to make more than MacKinnon. And so Carolina jumped in. We have to go through all of these things. So talks broke down with Dallas, who apparently offered him as much as $12 million per year, which is, if you look at what Leon Draisaitl makes, that's the money that Rantanen wanted. And I'm not sure he's going to get that, but he can get close to it. And if you're Rantanen, you've earned the right to be a free agent. If you want to walk into free agency and sign anywhere you want and, go to the highest bidder, the number will probably be pretty close to $14 million. Probably not quite there, but say 13.5. I think he could get to that as a free agent. Now, it'll be a 7-year deal, not an 8-year deal, because you can only sign an 8-year deal with the team that has your rights as of today. So the Hurricanes could sign him to the 8-year deal right now. Nobody else can. If the Hurricanes trade him to another team for assets, that team can sign him to an 8-year deal. But if he's not going to sign with Dallas, and it says to me that he is going to exercise his rights under the collective bargaining agreement to become a free agent at the end of the year, which is his prerogative. But it does bring this into the equation. How did Carolina get this wrong? But they might not have gotten it wrong. And here's why. And maybe and actually Martin Necas said it. I don't know if anybody's heard the clip. Colorado played last night. He had a goal and an assist, I believe. And they asked him after the game, what's going on in Carolina? Look, Necas still has great friends here. So he says, I talk to a lot of those guys often. He goes, I'm surprised they made this deal without knowing they could sign him. Fair. I would rather Marty not say anything, but It's fine. It's okay. It's pretty innocent what he did say.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people are in the same boat. But if we go back to the beginning of this, and this is where we have to jump around. And again, 919-860-5326 if you want to talk about this. This will be like a therapy session.
There you go.
For Hurricanes fans.
Yeah.
By the way, on Twitter, they have completely turned.
Oh.
Holy cow.
Not a Mikko fan.
Oh my gosh, you would have thought Mikko has like bodies buried in the backyard.
Yeah.
Please, people.
I guess it's a good thing the game's not tonight because they'd boo him right off the ice.
Look, I still think there is a good chance that he's here when the Hurricanes play Winnipeg on Sunday. Like in a Hurricanes uniform. I guess theoretically they could trade him to Winnipeg. I don't think that's going to happen. Although, there's actually a couple of deals I would make with Winnipeg if the Jets were willing, because Winnipeg has some players I think Carolina would like. And I know Carolina has liked in the past. I mean, I don't know, get Nick Ehlers, then sign Ehlers to a contract. Anyway, so so Hurricanes Twitter has gone completely anti-Mikko, which again, I get, but I think everybody is just taking it a little too far. He has earned the right to become a free agent. Now, with that said, the Hurricanes made this deal and gave up three, we'll say, very significant assets. Martin Necas, who they had signed for another year at $6.5 million. Jack Drury, who they had signed for another year at like $1.75 million. And a second-round pick. They also gave a draft pick to Chicago to launder the contract of Rantanen and also to get Taylor Hall. So my question, well, not my question, but those are, let's just say, three very significant assets. To varying degrees. We can rank them. Necas, Drury, the second-round pick. Those three assets, if Rantanen isn't staying, an organization like the Hurricanes that prides itself on maximizing the value of things. When you see an organization who trades a late first to trade back and pick up to an early second and another second, that's maximizing the value. Because when they look at it, they don't see the difference between the 27th pick in the draft and the 35th pick in the draft. They don't. And I agree with that. There really isn't any difference. Not in any practical way. So they are maximizing value. This is what they do. Rantanen walking away at free agency. Let's say they trade his rights when he finally decides where he wants to play. They trade him away and get a third round pick in return. To me, that ain't maximizing the value of Necas, Drury, and a second. It's the opposite of that. And that's what this organization does, honestly, better than anything else, is maximize value. So this would be antithetical to what they want to do. And I said this last week, and I know people thought I was crazy. I said, sometimes you say things without saying it. All of these rumors were indicators that it was unlikely Nothing is final. He might still sign the contract with Dallas. But all of these rumors were indications that signing him to a long-term contract extension was not likely. Not impossible, but not likely. Because what did I say at the time? Look at who is putting these things into the universe. Elliot Friedman, Darren Dreger, Pierre LeBrun, all of the guys who are in the know. And because of who was floating these things, I know we had Greg Wyshynski on the other day, and he goes, I can't wrap my mind around the Hurricanes making this trade for a negotiating window. And I don't think they did. I think they believed at the time, and I realize I'm jumping all over the place here. I think they believed at the time that they would get Rantanen here. They would show Mikko Rantanen what this locker room was about, what the head coach was about, how the team played, how the team won, all of that, and he would like it here. He would love the fact that you can essentially walk around, not anonymously, but it's not like being in a fishbowl in Toronto or some other places which become difficult for visiting players or for home players. Demanding and all that. It's a much more laid-back lifestyle. Maybe that's not good. I don't know. But they thought that they would get him here, they would get their Hurricanes all over him, and he would want to stay. That was the plan. They didn't have a conversation with him until they made the deal. Everything here had to be so quiet. That's why he was blindsided by this. That's why everybody was blindsided by this. And now here we are. We are however many days, games into this experiment. And there have been mixed results. He has not played well the last few games. He was particularly off, we'll call it off, yesterday. He was off in Detroit. I would say, I know we had Corey Lavalette on earlier in the week, and he thought that Rantanen had been their best forward or best player. I don't know if we said forward or player. And I will just, respectfully disagree. I certainly don't think he was bad. I mean, that's not, he wasn't atrocious.
He just looks a little lethargic or something.
As I said yesterday, I would give him a B for his time with the Hurricanes. Now, I said that before last night. Last night was particularly off. But he certainly hasn't been bad. What he has shown is, in flashes, he has shown the dynamic playmaking ability that Carolina wanted. I would argue that most of that came early. And the funny part is that Hurricanes fans were so mad at Jackson Blake for being on that line. Get Blake off the line. They were blinded by the fact that Blake was probably the best player on that line during that stretch. But I get it. Blake is 22 years old. He's not yet ready to be a top line right wing.
He's small.
I understand. Right. And he does get knocked off the puck, but boy, does he make plays. Anyway, Rantanen and Blake were actually gelling pretty well.
Yeah.
They just weren't scoring. I get it. We want to score. Rantanen really hasn't scored with anybody, which that's a problem. Anyway, we saw flashes of what Mikko is good at and capable of, but we haven't seen, honestly, dominance. We haven't seen Rantanen be Rantanen as a Hurricane. In fact, he was the number one star of the game, I think, twice, right? Because of points. He had a goal and an assist in one game. It was Whalers night. He had a goal and an assist. And I think it was when the Blackhawks were here. He had a goal and an assist. And he was the number one star in both games. And I get why they do the stars the way they did. Like last night, anybody that watched the game, any Hurricanes fans, we all know who was the best player. Pyotr Kochetkov last night. Hands down, the best player. Third star. I can't really do the interview. Even though he can, sort of.
Kinda.
He's not going to do the interview.
No.
So, who was the number one star last night? Jarvis, because he scored the game winner. But in both games where Rantanen was the first star in the building, I'm not sure he's one of the 5 best players. But he had 2 points. And I get it. The first time, you want to give the pop. You want the crowd to go moose, moose, moose. By the way, we will not be sure what they're saying if the Hurricanes don't move him.
I know.
And that
Boo and moose is very similar.
Exactly. So, look, the Hurricanes are in a very difficult spot because you could make the argument that if this does not produce something, if Rantanen will not agree to a contract with Dallas, and you could still make the deal, you'll get less. It's going to be, I don't think it'll be a problem in Carolina's locker room at all. I was watching one of the, trade deadline shows on one of the networks, and I don't know how he goes back into that locker room. They've already said that they were going to trade him. They've sort of been working on this for 2 weeks, dude. Everybody has known this. They've been, taking calls for 2 weeks on this. Because of him. If he had given them an indication that, I'm probably going to sign here, don't worry about it, we're good. If he had given them that indication, none of this would be happening. So, eyes wide open down on Edwards Mill at Lenovo Center where the Hurricanes live, and Rantanen. And the players, too. I do think this has really been difficult on Rantanen, on Sebastian Aho, and the guys in that locker room, and I feel particularly bad for Aho because he's got 2 things to serve. He's got his team, who he loves, right? He's got this group, this team, which is ultimately his team. And then he's got his friend, who had the rug pulled out from him by his other team. And Aho wants, oh my gosh, Rantanen is a great player. I would love for him to stay here. He wants that. To so much so that I thought it impacted his play initially. And now he's in the middle of, he is my friend, I want what's best for him, and this is my team, I really want what's best for us. And I don't know that there is a good answer, a good result here, unless Rantanen is willing to sign a long-term contract in Dallas.
I'm surprised that doesn't help having his bestie here. You could play together, it'd be cute.
It would be adorable. The bigger problem here is that, I'm going to say this out loud, is there anything that we have seen for however many games that you would want to spend $13 million a year on?
Unfortunately, no.
That's my opinion. I wouldn't. I like what Mikko Rantanen represents, but what Mikko Rantanen represents and Mikko Rantanen might be 2 different things. So, I don't know the way out of this for the Hurricanes. Honestly, I still think that there is a good chance that Rantanen is here, wearing number 96 for the Hurricanes on Sunday night against Winnipeg. And we're going to play the last 19 games, do the best we can, and maybe make a run in the playoffs. That's on the table, folks. I mean, the Hurricanes could legitimately end up without too much trouble. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy, but they could end up in the Eastern Conference Finals. Status quo. Rantanen with Aho and Jarvis for, 20 minutes a game in the playoffs, and everything in place the way it is. Especially if they get the goaltending that they have gotten the last 3 games, because Kochetkov twice and Anderson once. That's been really good. So they could get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and I think most people would be cool. And then you'll flip him before, he and who knows, maybe that run changes the dynamics of these conversations. I don't know. But I still think there's a half chance that he's here, in which case fans are going to have to get along. It's going to be interesting. Fascinating Sunday if Rantanen is still with the Hurricanes.
Very interested in that.
I'm going to say don't start him.
Yeah.
Don't put him in. Don't start
Safe
him
that way.
Like it is safe that way, and then just hope like on his first shift he scores a goal.
Right. Yeah.
And everybody falls in love again.
Mm-hmm. Take him to go get some barbecue. Call it a day.
This is not a great situation. I will say this real quick about Eric Tulsky, the general manager who engineered the trade. And yes, Tom Dundon is involved in everything. I applaud him for taking the swing at Rantanen. But this particular element of the scenario, this is, I think, the biggest tell about where Eric Tulsky is as a general manager. And I'm not saying if they can't do anything good out of this situation that he is a failure. No. He's a first-year GM. So this is where maybe the Don Waddell factor matters.